Boatbuilding News, the podcast. Let's do it. Welcome to Boatbuilding News, the podcast, a series of engaging interviews with key individuals from within the marine industry. I'm excited. This is going to be epic. The Yacht Fella. It's just everything I love about America, about the marine industry and social media.
Hey, thanks for having me, Holly. I really appreciate it.
Oh no, it's great to speak to you. We've been trying to organise this for so long, so it's good to finally get face to face with you and have this chat.
How long did it's been months, hasn't it?
I know. Well, I think I was travelling, then you were travelling, and then our schedules just have never aligned until now. So it's a bit difficult with the time difference as well, but we got there in the end, so that's the important thing.
That's the truth.
So, Kevin, also known as the Yacht Fella, which, by the way, I absolutely love. Introduce yourself. Start by saying, who you are, what is it you do in the industry? Take it away.
My name is Kevin Koenig. I'm an American, if you can't tell from my accent. I wear a few different hats in the industry. I've been a journalist covering yachts in the yachting industry for 15 years now, almost 16 actually. And I also run an Instagram channel called the Yacht Fella.
I know, I love it.
That's quite popular, and it's been a lot of fun. So I'm freelance. I work for myself. I have the best job in the world.
Well, actually, do you know what you actually do? So I was, as I always do, on the day that I'm due to meet someone and do a recording, I always take a bit of a look into, what you've been up to recently. And hands down, actually, you are living my dream life. So, I mean, is it as amazing as it looks across social media?
Social media is social media, but generally I try to be as authentic as possible with my posts. And, I think I've been very blessed to live a life that is probably pretty enviable in a lot of ways. I get to travel. I get to see these wondrous machines, be they boats or private jets or submarines or whatever, and get on them and give them a kick in the tires and let people know what I think about them. Yeah,
I mean, it is awesome. I mean, I agree with what you mean there. I mean, social media, it can be the highlight reel. I mean, so many people I bump into, I pass them in the office and they're like, oh, you're always out jet setting, you're always on boats. But, I don't often post the bit where you're traveling for a day, you're tired, you're exhausted. I just post the bit where I look super excited. So it is a bit of a highlight reel, right. But at the same time, it's incredible as well. So, we're fortunate to be doing what we do.
Yeah, we are. I think I posted about this, or I was talking to somebody about it the other day, but like my life is bifurcated in that like probably 70 days a year or so, maybe a little more, I'm on the road and I'm doing, I'm in Monte Carlo or the Great Barrier Reef or Miami on a speedboat or doing these crazy things, having these wonderful adventures and writing stories. But the rest of the time I'm home and being a father to two young kids, and I'm in the gym every day, and I'm not out partying or anything like that. I live like a very boring, almost ascetic, like Spartan lifestyle, you could say, when I'm home. So it's nice to have that little pressure relief, that pressure valve to get out and get on the water on the boats.
Yeah, no, 100%. So, I mean, what's your journey been like? I mean, have you always been into boats? Have you always been into, the marine industry? Did you grow up boating? How did it all begin?
Yeah, so I grew up in New Jersey, which is not a yachting capital for certain. You're not going to see many yachts there. You do see some boats there. We had a couple smaller boats growing up that we used on the Barnegat Bay mostly. The last one we had was like a 23-foot Sea Ray. Nothing, certainly not a yacht. But I knew enough. I knew boats growing up, and then I also had a strong writing background.
Okay,
which was actually more important for my journey, because it's a lot easier to teach someone who knows how to write everything there is to know about boats versus teaching someone who knows a ton about boats how to write.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Prevailing theory in the magazine industry, and I tend to agree with that. So. Yeah, I got out of college. I was an English major and a modern Western European history major as well, double, and thought I might be a lawyer, or thought somehow I might find my way into an investment banking role. I just wanted to be rich, basically. That was kind of my only goal coming out. And I worked at a law firm for a year. Absolutely despised it. I was working 110-hour weeks, and it was crazy. So I left, and it was just mind-numbing work. So I left there. Went back to school for a little bit for journalism, just a small course at Columbia University in New York, and made a lot of really strong connections there, but came out and still couldn't really make a full-time writing gig work. So lo and behold, I got a call from a buddy of mine from college one day, and he was like, hey, I'm working on a credit derivatives desk at Goldman Sachs on Wall Street. You should come interview. And I was like, I don't know anything about finance. Like, what are you talking about? And he said, no, I think they'll like you. And it's long story short, I somehow got hired at Goldman Sachs, which is like, the Fed ship of investment banking.
Just somehow got hired. You make it sound like it was such a spur of the moment off chance.
I'm very charming in interviews. No, I think I was a personality hire because I didn't know anything when I was there. And really? I made it 3 years until one day, I hated it, but they pay you a lot, so I stayed. Made it 3 years until the economy crashed, and it was at late 2008, I think, and it was December 9th, and I was on a desk with 16 people, and 12 of our computers shut off at the exact same moment, and we all thought there was a glitch, and then all of our phones rang at the same moment, and they walked us across the hall and fired us all, and gave us very nice severance packages so we wouldn't say mean things about the bank, and everybody was all broken up. Except for me. I was very happy because I couldn't figure out a way to extricate myself from the banking lifestyle and what they pay you and all that kind of stuff. So everybody went out to the bar at like 10 a.m. to like soothe their pain. And I walked out the front door of Goldman Sachs and clicked my heels in the air like a leprechaun and went about my day. I went straight to the gym, actually.
So it was almost like gave you that freedom that you wanted to do, but I suppose you were tied to the earnings of it.
Yeah, I always tell people when they get fired, and this has happened to me multiple times. It's part of the reason I work for myself.
This might be a new problem.
Part of the reason I work for myself is because I'm not a very good employee. I'll be honest with you. I have an entrepreneurial spirit, as they say. So I've been fired a couple times, and I always tell people who lose their jobs when they're really upset. Like, obviously, there's certain concerns for different people, financial, if they have families and everything like that. But losing your job for me has been some of the best, biggest growth moments of my entire life. So I look at it as a blessing, honestly. So yeah, anyway, I was unemployed for more or less a year and a half or so in New York City. And I had some money saved up. So I was just kind of bouncing around, partying, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And what I really wanted to do was, what I knew I didn't want to do was go back and work in a cube.
Right.
So I either wanted to be a writer, which was like my main talent, or I was thinking about doing something physical, like possibly joining the military or becoming a fireman or something of that nature.
That's two very different opposite ends of the scale.
Yeah, but it's kind of how I am, right? Like the reason I scheduled this podcast for 12:30 or tried to do it at early in the morning was because I trained jujitsu basically all morning every day at a gym. So I'm either writing or strangling people, basically. Those are my hobbies.
Just your two main life activities.
So it's that, sleeping, and raising kids. That's all I do. Is write about boats, beat people up, or get beaten up, raise kids, and sleep.
Raising kids and beating up is pretty much the same thing, I'm sure.
So what happened was I applied online on a site called MediaBistro.com to a magazine I'd never heard of before called Power and Motor Yacht Magazine.
Okay.
And forgot I applied. It's an American magazine. Forgot I applied. And then 2 months later, I got a call from a very nice lady with a thick Ukrainian accent. And I couldn't tell what she was saying about Power and Motor Yacht Magazine. I almost hung up on her.
Oh, wow.
And she convinced me to stay on the line. Thank God. Because that's how I ended up getting my first job in the industry. I was called in for an interview because they liked my writing sample. I hit it off with the editor-in-chief, so much so that I thought I would get a job offer on the spot. but I did not. In fact, got a picture of a boat that evening in my inbox, and he asked for 1,000 words on it by 3 p.m. the next day.
Wow, that's been put on the spot.
By a stroke, man. Especially when you've never written anything about a boat before, right?
Oh my goodness.
Luckily, by a stroke of fate, the boat was a Viking 82, which they build in New Jersey. So I knew from growing up in Jersey, I'd go fishing with my father at the Manasquan Inlet, and a Grady White would go by, and he'd say, that's a good boat. And then a Viking would go by, and he'd say, that's a really good boat. So I knew something about Viking. I didn't know much about any other manufacturers, and I knew they were fast.
Right.
So I titled the article Born to Run, and I wove in a bunch of Springsteen quotes throughout, hit 1,000 words on button the next day, sent it in, got hired. And 2 weeks later, I was in the Bahamas testing the fastest jet ski ever built. So haven't looked back since.
Oh my goodness, that's a crazy couple of weeks you had there. You talk about it as if, it was just something that just happened to you and, it was luck. But, you've gone into a couple of situations now where this luck keeps happening to you. So I wonder if it's more to do with you putting yourself in that situation more than, these lucky breaks that just keep falling at your feet.
Yeah, there's a few ways to answer that, right? I think luck plays a major role in all of life. But I think the best way to prepare yourself for lucky breaks is to be ready. You always got to be ready, right? Like I said, I live kind of a bit of a Spartan lifestyle. I'm always working out or reading or working or doing something that, like, if something presents itself, I'm ready for it. And then the flip side of that, what I think is probably even more important, is really just to be, if something presents itself that's good that you want, you got to be a goddamn pit bull about it. Like a pit bull with a bone in its mouth. Don't give it up. Get on it. Get what you need out of it. Make it work. Because those things don't come along very often, right? If I had screwed up the interview with Power and Motor Yacht back when I was in my 20s, like, God knows where I'd be. I literally have no idea where I'd be. Certainly not living this wonderful life that I'm living now. And it was because I had that interview and I stayed up all night writing that as best an article I could about a boat. And then I just really stayed on it. The very first article I wrote for that magazine, and the second one actually, both won international awards for that magazine. And it was the first awards they had won ever from that group, Boating Writers International. And I won 2 of them in the same year because I was just so ready to, like, write and be published, and, like, understood the opportunity I had in front of me. So
yeah, I mean, in aside from what I do with the Boatbuilding News, I also run a recruitment agency, and it's interesting because if I look at the team of the recruiters, the most successful recruiters, you look at them, and we sometimes joke, about, oh, you're lucky, you've done this, oh, you've got a bit of luck again. But actually, if you actually analyze what they do, they're just working harder than anyone else. So it appears lucky. They're creating more opportunities, so odds are, the ratios are that they are going to be more successful. And to the external person, sometimes it does look lucky or a bit jammy, but it's never really like that. You get the odd, out of the blue breakthrough, but it's usually, directly linked to somebody's inputs.
Yeah, everybody sees the duck floating across the surface, but they don't see the feet paddling like crazy underneath, right? Like, that's the saying. It's really true. I mean, I work all the time. I'm like, I'm constantly on my phone, and even if I'm not, like, working, I'm working my relationships and figuring out angles and all this kind of stuff. I happen to love my job and love doing what I do, so that helps as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. I mean, we call it a job, but when it's something so connected to people and networking and connections, and you've kind of got to immerse yourself. There's no, oh, it's 5:30, the laptop lid goes down. That's just not. We wouldn't be doing what we do in the industry that we do if we were that type of person. So it's not even a job, is it? It's like it's a lifestyle, really. You've got to be all in, or you might as well not be in at all.
It's immersive. It's a relationship business. It's probably one of the strongest relationship businesses in the world, right? When you factor in how small it is and how niche it is, and then all the discretion that's involved, and everybody knows everybody. Yeah,
Gosh,
I wake up and I'm on my phone. I'm answering DMs and emails sometimes before I even get out of bed. Before it's 7 a.m. And especially with the social media stuff kicking off, it's just
oh my
it's
goodness.
nonstop. Like I'm hit answering DMs at 10:30 before I go to sleep. Trying to build a brand and whatever it takes.
It's relentless, but it's one of those things that everyone wants, especially the younger generation. They all want to be, working in social media. They all want to have the positives from it. But actually, behind the scenes, there's only a few small people that do the hard work and the consistency over such a long period of time to get to the point where, you are getting that call from somebody saying, hey, come out to Italy and test drive my boat.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that happens overnight. It's years and years and years of relentless hard work with none of that glamorous lifestyle given back to you. And I
Right.
think that sometimes people think you're an overnight success almost because they've just never noticed you before, but they didn't see you in the years beforehand when it was probably the least glamorous hard slog.
Yeah, when it comes to social media work, like I post every single day, and my, as my captions are kind of where it's at. Like those things don't just fall out of the sky. I need to think of an idea. I have to have like some sense of fact checking going on. I have to find the right video to pair it to, and I have to write basically a small magazine article every single day for
Yeah.
free, just out of passion, basically.
Yeah.
And it ends every day. Like people don't realize that. Like I'm there, like at 4 o'clock, whatever I'm doing, I'm clicking off my work that I actually get paid for. Well, I'm starting to get paid for social media, but like my regular work, and like then it's Yacht Fella time, and I'm sitting there like figuring out what I'm going to post that day.
Yeah.
And I see people online like, oh, they want to have these accounts. They're open accounts. Maybe they bought some followers or whatever, and then you don't see them for a couple months. They come back on. I'm like, oh, yeah, I haven't been consistent lately. And it's like, well, then you don't really want it, because if you want it, you got to be consistent.
Well, that's the key, isn't it? Consistency. And someone once said to me, consistency is your superpower. And it's such an underrated thing. You could produce the greatest content with the most beautifully edited video and the perfect caption. If you're only doing it once every 6 weeks, it's not going to fly. It's that consistency, and it's relentless consistency, even when you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
It's not taking a day off, even if it's not a working day officially. It's never not a working day on social media if you've got to get that level of consistency, haven't you?
Yep. Yeah. I call it persistence, not consistency, but it's similar concepts. It's like kind of like what I was saying before. Like I've been with the Yacht Fella, I've been presented with this opportunity in the past year, that I'd be fucking insane not to jump all over. Like, why would I not be all in on this? Like, I've become like a Y level celebrity in some parts of the world, and I have like billionaires in my DMs that like want to talk to me, and like like NFL superstars are like, hey Kevin, what do you think about this? And I'm like, holy, how did I get here?
Wow.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that's at a different level. I mean, I get mind blown if I go to a boat show and people ask me for a selfie. That blows my mind. I've not quite got the billionaires in my DMs yet, but there's still time. And I'm
Happened
certainly
to
not getting
me
NFL stars.
happened to me last week, 3 days in a row. 3 different guys with extremely large net worths contacted me through my Instagram. One of them is royalty. I'm sitting there potty training my daughter, and I got a DM from a royal, a very wealthy royal.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God. No, I'm definitely not at that level. That's inspired me. I tell you, next time I think I don't want to post, I want the royalty in my
I
DM.
think I don't know, it could have been a Stan account, but I'm fairly certain the guy was legit. I think he was.
Oh my goodness, I love that. Oh gosh, I'd love to be a fly on the wall in your DMs. They're more exciting than mine, that's for sure.
It's an interesting
So,
place.
I mean, everything sounds great, but what's been your biggest challenge? There must have been a time where you thought, this is actually really hard.
Professionally, or give me a little time frame here.
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess professionally, what's been the hardest challenge you've had to face? It can't have all been this, as wonderful as we're talking about.
No, it hasn't. I mean, I've kind of hinted at it earlier, with my personality with the is relatively probably more intense than some other people's, and that for a long time worked against me just as much as it worked for me. Like I suffered from depression for years, like decades, from when I was a kid up until into my late 30s was when I really got a handle on it and really took it seriously. But it was the same thing.
Really?
Like, it was that self-critical voice. I'd be like, why aren't you doing this better? Like, you can do this, you can do that, and you're not, and blah, blah, blah. And it's that kind of stuff that propelled me forward. Also, held me down as well. It was pretty brutal. So I'm extremely proud that I've gotten a handle on that as well. Mental health is extremely important to talk about. That's why I bring it up.
Yeah, I mean, and also I think, mental health, when you work on social media, it almost makes it worse, because I feel that everyone has this perception of people that are putting themselves out there, whether it's, on social media or, public speaking or anything that's quite sort of people facing. People just assume that you're almost immune to it, that you must have, endless confidence, and you are very self-secure and you can put yourself out there. And a lot of the time, especially with some of the comments that come back in, I mean, you must get them as well, people don't realize that not everyone that's putting themselves out there is as sort of self-secure as they perhaps envisage.
Yeah, I'm pretty self-secure. I never ever really gave a shit what anybody thought about me. It was more what I thought about myself.
Really?
So
Oh God, so it was more like an internal opinion rather than worrying about external opinions.
yeah.
Oh, okay. Gosh, that's probably even more tricky then, I guess.
Oh, it was awful. It dogged me for decades until I
Really?
decided that I wasn't going to do it anymore, and I got help, and I doubled down on my philosophy, my meditation, and my physical self-care and everything.
Do you look back and think I can pinpoint what triggered that, or is it just something that you don't know how it was just there one day and it stayed with you?
Popped into my head one day when I was 11, I remember, and didn't leave for 20 years, 25 years.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that's such a huge chunk of life. If that was a physical problem to do with your physical health, you wouldn't have put up with it for 20 years. So it's mad really when you look at it and you think, because it's something to do with your mental health or something that's going on in your head, that you lived with it for that long.
Yeah, well, my dog's about to start barking at somebody. I was an 80s baby and a 90s kid, and I grew up in Essex County, New Jersey, which is a pretty like tough-minded part of the country, and people didn't talk about it back then. People didn't talk about mental health
No.
until 5 years ago, right? It was just kind of like something that was like, just shut up and deal with it. And I did that for a really long time, and it was hard. It was a struggle. So I'm
Yeah,
glad
well,
that it's become more of a thing that people can talk about now, because it's rampant. Men, especially, obviously it covers all sexes, but men suffer from suicide at a higher rate than women. They die by homicide at a higher rate by women. They have higher rates of being locked away in jail. They have higher rates of addiction. And that's really, those are just symptoms a lot of times of mental health issues that are just run amok because nobody talks about them. The way to help that is to make it okay to talk about that kind of stuff.
well, yeah, and it's mad when you say it's more prevalent in men, when actually, I don't know, through nature or nurture, men are less likely to talk about it as well than women, aren't they? So it's even more
Yeah, right.
scary then that actually
They
they're
go to
more
the
likely to
bar,
suffer.
black out. Yeah, they pop
Yeah.
pills and they go to the bar and black out, or maybe they go home and eat a gun or something. It's like it's a real issue that needs to be spoken about, and I'm really happy that it's become more and more prevalent for men to be talking about. But like I said, I go to the jiu-jitsu gym, and like a lot of the guys in there are depressed as shit, and they're there because it helps for them to be like around other people who are like-minded and doing something that is purpose-driven and good for their bodies and has a sense of community about it.
Yeah, I mean, and also just, the actual fact of being active and exercise, like it's the most powerful drug to combat, any mental health issues out there. It's incredible the effect that has on the body. Just half an hour run, even something as simple as that. I'm not sure I'd go as far as jiu-jitsu, but a run maybe.
Yeah, that and good rest are like the two biggest things you can do for your body.
Yeah. So what's been the greatest thing you've ever done? What's been the greatest opportunity, or the greatest phone call, the greatest place you've ever been, where you look at and you think, oh my God, I've created this, I've made it because I'm here. What's it been?
I don't think you ever make it. I don't really believe in success as a destination. I think success is more of a thing that you're in the process of every day when you're getting up and you're giving your most to whatever it is that you're doing. I think that's really what success is. So that's my philosophical answer. My more real. When did I know I made it? I don't think I made it. Jeez, I don't know. I guess maybe at the last Monaco Yacht Show, when I really kind of came into my own as like the yacht fella. I was invited a bunch of times to the Monaco Yacht Club, just like casually, like socialize, and I was like standing around like, holy shit, like I'm at the Monaco Yacht Club, just hanging out. Like people want to talk to me. Like this is crazy.
Yeah, it is weird. It is weird, isn't it? Because I think everyone's got that moment of realization. If you're working hard at something, everyone's got a moment of realization. Whether it's the end destination or not, where they go, "Oh wow, like I'm here, like, and I've put myself here." It is such a lovely sort of internal feeling. Really, it's quite humbling as well.
Yeah, it was really something. It was cool. Yeah, and there's been certain boats I've gotten on that I was really blown away by, or places I've been. But yeah, that was a pretty cool experience.
Okay, so the yacht fella. Okay, so was that a conscious thing? Did you say, oh, I'm going to create a social media profile, I'm going to create a personal brand, what can I call it? Was it something you actually planned out, or did you just become known as the fella that likes yachts? I mean, how did it start? How did that start?
So I struck out on my own as a journalist. I was the executive editor at Yachting magazine for quite some time, and I struck out on my own about coming up on 4 years now ago.
Okay.
And when I did it, I wasn't quite sure where my career was going, what I was going to do, if I was even going to stay in yachting or journalism or whatever. I was thinking about maybe being a teacher, or I don't know. It's the whole thing. But one of the things I was thinking was, listen, I travel all around the world. I do all these cool things. I like being on screen. Like maybe I could catch the eye of a television producer. And so I started this Instagram account called The Yacht Fellow, which I don't even know where the name came from, honestly. I can't remember coming up with it, or had no real significance. And I started documenting my travels, and the captions weren't really a thing back then. It was just kind of like, oh, here I am in Stockholm driving a boat, or here I am at in Australia, or whatever it was. And I did that for 2 years, and it wasn't an everyday thing. I wasn't consistent with it, but I posted a fair bit, and up until May 28th of last year, I had 532 followers. And then last May, I was the only journalist invited by BMW and Tide, that crazy boat they have. That
Oh my goodness, I love that. I saw it at Cannes. It was unreal.
Yeah, so I got an email from a German PR guy, and he said, we have this boat, BMW's involved, you're the only journalist we're inviting, we want you to come to the Cannes Film Festival where we're launching it to try it out. And I was like, cool, like what's the boat? Because I have to sell an article. I got to tell an editor, like, this is what I'm going to go do. And they wouldn't show me a picture of the boat, wouldn't tell me much about the boat. I thought it was like basically maybe a scam or something. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. Here's the origin story of the Yacht Fella. There is a little restaurant in Cannes called Brioche de Lenard. I don't speak French. Brioche de Lenard, I think it is. And it's off the beaten path. It's not super close to the show. And I'd gone there earlier in the year when I was in Cannes, and had steak frites for lunch one day, the last day of the Cannes boat show. by myself, and it was one of the most lovely meals I've ever had. Right. So I get invited to the Cannes Film Festival to get on board this boat that I can't see, that nobody will tell me any details about because it ends up being such a strange boat that they didn't want it. They didn't think anybody would come. Right. And I took the invitation. I saw the story and I took the invitation. And I was like, listen, I'm going to go to France for 2 days. And like, worst comes to worst, we need some steak frites. And so that's why I went there literally to eat steak frites at Brioche de Lenard, and ended up getting on this boat and test driving it. And my friend Camilla was with me, and she was like, hey, let's get a video of you driving the boat. And I was like, yeah, put it on Yacht Fella. Then she shoots a 30-second video, and I put it on my Yacht Fella account, and I checked an hour later, and it had 10,000 likes. And I was like, whoa. And then it was like 2,000 followers a day for like months afterwards. And the account, I just started posting every day because I was like, oh, wow, I'm going viral. And like my stuff started going viral again and again and again and again. And the account grew. We're at 128,000 now, and we're still only at 11 months old. So
yeah, that's mad. So it's been quite, considering you're only at 500 May 2023, like that's actually a crazy amount of growth, because we need to talk. I need your advice. I've been on 1,500 for about 3 years.
I know. It's like that felt like that was just like just kind of a lucky thing. I don't know. Like, granted, like I was doing a lot of cool things. So like one of them eventually,
you must buy a lottery ticket. You've got to be the luckiest guy going, right?
Probably should. I've never played the lottery.
You'd probably win first time, don't you?
I'm actually risk averse. So yeah, it popped off from there and just went crazy. Became a whole brand that I'm still kind of figuring out where it fits in the world. It's really a new thing, but it's got my followers, as I said, are like serious people. Like, it's aspirational. I have people that just like pretty boats, but like I also have like really serious people. I have I have like Hollywood actors that I know follow me because they DM me, and sports superstars and billionaires and 100 millionaires, and like I said, royalty, and like I know they're there because I see who's seeing my stuff, and like it's a very it's smaller than some of the other influencers. It's younger, but it's smaller. But as far as the following, it's very impactful. So, and it makes sense. Right? It's like my stuff is it's industry insight. It's not just a picture of a sparkly yacht. Like, oh, would you buy this? Or millionaire versus billionaire. It's like I'm going into talking about design, or I'm talking about how the owner made his money, or the most interesting thing about the boat that someone who's like a serious-minded person about yachts would probably want to read.
It is. I mean, I follow you, and I read every post you put out, and it is interesting. Yeah, I absolutely love it.
You have a favorite post that you can recall?
Yes, the one probably because I absolutely adore Bob Dennison, but it was where you were on the boat and you were saying hi to him as you were going along. But only because I cannot tell you how much I adore Bob. There is just something about him. He has this aura around him that every time I have a conversation with him, I just smile. I can't help it.
Yeah, I was texting with him yesterday. We're supposed to have a call.
Shit. He is one of the funny.
I'll get on the phone with him in an hour, actually. I have a call with him at 2.
Right. Oh my goodness. Tell him I said hi.
I will.
He is one of the most naturally funny people, but like effortlessly funny as well. Like, it has me in stitches. Absolutely love him.
Yeah, he's good. He's having his 5th kid now. It's going to have his hands full.
Yeah. So actually on that, so you've got 2 kids. What do they think about what you do? I mean, how old are they?
They're little. They're 5 and 2. They just hope they hope I bring a toy back from whenever I travel. My son is funny because like he's a real chatterbox, and he's in pre-K or whatever, and he'll like go in the beginning he would like go tell his teachers like, oh, like my daddy wrote a book, or like my daddy was on a submarine, or like whatever. They thought he was lying, and then they figured it out.
Yeah, so my kids, so I've got three girls, 13, 10, and 7, and they hate what I do. They hate it with a passion. Oh my goodness. They are just, they think it's so cringe. They think it is so cringe. They're like, my mum is on camera. Oh, my mum's put a YouTube video up, and you know, and especially my middle one, she's a little bit savage. If I'm recording anything, as soon as I sort of stop recording, she'll be like mocking me in the background, and oh my goodness, yeah, it's a tough place to be. They are my toughest crowd. Like
Yeah.
they are so hard to please. Yeah, if they see me filming anywhere, they are just absolutely mortified.
Yeah, well, moms are embarrassing when you're that age.
That is it. That is it. They're like, you're so embarrassing. And if I dare tell any of their friends that I've got a YouTube channel or anything like that, because oh my goodness me, to them that's social suicide.
Yeah, we're not there yet, but it's coming. I'm sure
It'll happen. It will happen. Yeah, I thought they'd be so impressed as well. So I was like, I was so disappointed when they hated
I
it.
can see my kids being unimpressed with like everything I do. Okay.
Yeah. So what's been the best piece of advice anyone's ever given you?
I have a running list of advice from very successful people that I've interviewed.
Yeah.
Might turn it into a book one day. She's the
Cool.
best piece of advice.
Or the craziest even. Do you know what I mean? A bit of advice that's just sort of stuck in your head and you've thought, I've never thought about things that way.
That someone's told me or that I've read or
Anything. Yeah, just something that's really stuck with you that you thought, you know, I'm gonna use that and I'm gonna think of that.
Yeah, so one thing that's always been a guiding principle for me, I've found that in my life, the things that I've regretted the most are when I didn't trust my own instinct. And there's a Ralph
Oh,
Waldo Emerson
really?
quote. Ralph Waldo
Sure.
Emerson said, "Trust thyself, every heart beats to that iron string." I think that's a great quote.
So
And
you make quite a few decisions on gut feel then.
yeah, I think you have to in the end. I think there's just so many variables to life that your brain's just not going to be able to comprehend that. I think it's usually best to go with your gut.
Well, I
Yeah,
suppose then also
the
that
flip side of that
counteracts
is
overthinking.
Drake said it as well. He said, "Never take advice. That's the best advice."
No, take it. Oh, right, okay. That's kind of anti-advice, but yeah, I get it. But I suppose there's that tendency to overthink, isn't there? If you look at something and you think, well, logically, what's the right thing to do here? You could give yourself pros and cons till the cows come home. But I suppose you've only got one gut instinct. If something feels right or something doesn't feel right, you know, that's
Yeah. Some people, this isn't quite the same, but some people like to crawl before they walk before they run. I kind of subscribe to moving fast and breaking things. You know, life's long. You got to take chances. You got to take risks to be successful. Just go say yes to a lot of things and go see how it plays out. If it doesn't play out, who cares? It might work out really well for you. You might end up with 128,000 followers in 11 months. You never know.
oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, you're absolutely right. So if you got who's your biggest influence? You know, who do you look up to? Have you got, you know, people that are really influencing your direction?
No.
You're just alive, just do whatever you want.
Yeah, I joke with my friends and my wife that the yacht fella has no big homies. It's only because like there's no path. Like nobody on earth is like a capital J journalist writing for the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal and all these kinds of things, and also a yacht influencer doing like the kind of stuff that I do. Like there's no real parallel for my job. So while I do have people that I look up to as far as like that are wonderful people in the industry that have been good influences, and as far as like a path, or I don't have any mentors, unfortunately. I'd love to have a mentor who could encompass that kind of stuff, but I don't. Although shout out to Radenko Milokovic at J Craft Boats. He's awesome, and it might be the closest thing I have to a mentor in the industry at the moment. He's my mentor for being a gentleman. He's like a world-class gentleman, so I kind of look to him for my manners.
How to behave in public. Oh my goodness, that's awesome. So, I mean, I always finish on the same question. What one
Oh, we're
quote do you
almost done. I
strive
was
to
enjoying
live by?
myself.
Oh, we can talk more if you want.
Yeah,
But
let's
yeah,
chat. I'm
always.
not on Bob till 2, so.
It's much later here than what it is for you. Don't forget.
Oh yeah, that's right. Well, pour yourself a
No,
glass of
it's
wine.
right.
So.
No, it's fine. So what? I mean, I this is my favorite question I ask everyone because I love quotes. I love motivational quotes. I just love them. And every time I mean, I think we're on episode 39, maybe 40 now of this podcast, and not a single guest has ever given me the same quote as somebody else. And they are always quotes that make me stop and think. So it's my favorite question. When I've got a clothing brand, and I have dreams of putting these quotes on the back of all the t-shirts as well. So it's it'll be used one day. So what one quote do you strive to live by?
Oh, I just told you the Emerson quote.
That's it. That's the one. That's the same bit of advice. The quote. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
However, a good one for a T-shirt, I've always thought, and what I want to get engraved on the back of my Rolex one day is a Biggie Smalls line. It's stay low and keep firing.
Stay low and keep. Oh my god, that would be awesome on the back of a t-shirt, wouldn't it? Stay low, keep firing.
Yeah, I think it's really
that's up there with. Someone said to me that actually is incredible on the back of a t-shirt. I'll sleep when I'm dead. I was like,
yeah,
oh,
that's it. I think I've seen that one.
Yeah, that was who was that? That was Ken Clinton from Intrepid. He said that, and that's all that has stuck with me for a long, long time. I'll sleep when I'm dead. I'm like, all right,
yeah,
Ken.
That's one I use. I used to use that before I started prioritizing rest, but I used to say that a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
Sleep is a cousin of death.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kevin. I've loved chatting, and you were a bit sad that it ended, so let's do it again.
All right, wonderful. I'm here whenever you like to chat. I had a great time.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you for having me. Take care.
I really hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you have, then it would be awesome if you could leave a rating or a review. Don't forget to subscribe so you can listen to us again. See you soon.